It is Game 3 of the NBA Finals. The New York Knicks are playing at Madison Square Garden, their home court in front of their city for the first time in this series. For weeks, tens of thousands of New Yorkers had been gathering outside the arena in free open watch parties. People from the Bronx, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, families who could not afford the $8,000 to $12,000 tickets inside. This was New York. This was their moment. And then Donald Trump decided he wanted to come. Within 48 hours of that announcement, every watch party outside Madison Square Garden was canceled. Fans who had planned to attend were told they needed to arrive 2 to 3 hours early just to clear Secret Service. The streets around the garden were shut down. The subway stations were packed beyond capacity. And when reporters asked who was responsible for canceling the watch parties, the answer was a three-way blame game. The Knicks said it was the city said it was the Secret Service said nothing, and Trump said it was sad, and showed up anyway. This is Hidden Agenda, and this is the story of what happens when a president decides his presence is more important than yours. To understand how this happened, you need to understand the relationship between Donald Trump and James Dolan, because this did not start with the Secret Service. It started with a friendship. James Dolan is the billionaire owner of the New York Knicks in Madison Square Garden. He is not a beloved figure in New York. Knicks fans have been calling for his removal for years, blaming him for decades of mismanagement that kept one of the NBA's most storied franchises out of championship contention. His relationship with Trump is well documented. Dolan attended Trump's wedding. He has been a consistent supporter, and when the NBA Finals came to New York, Dolan personally invited Trump to watch Game 3 from his arena. That single decision set everything else in motion. A sitting president attending a public sporting event of this magnitude requires the Secret Service to clear and secure the entire surrounding area. That is not Dolan's fault. That is not Trump's fault in isolation. That is simply the reality of presidential security. But here is the question that every New Yorker outside that arena was asking on Monday night. Did Dolan think about what his invitation would cost the fans who cannot afford to be inside? Did Trump think about it? Because every president since the modern security era has understood something that this one apparently does not. When you attend a major public event, you are not just a guest. You are the disruption. You are the reason the experience changes for everyone around you. And historically, presidents have made the decision not to attend, not because they did not want to, but because they understood that the security burden their presence creates is not fair to impose on ordinary people just trying to enjoy a basketball game. When the watch party cancellations were announced, the response from every party involved was immediate and telling. Madison Square Garden put out a statement saying the permit for the Plaza 33 watch party was denied by the city's permitting office in consultation with NYPD. In other words, not our fault. The White House then said the decision had nothing to do with the president. In other words, not our fault either. And then the NYPD issued a statement that cut through all of it. Quote, "There will be no watch party outside of Madison Square Garden for Game 3 only. This was done fully in coordination with the Secret Service because President Trump is visiting. 3 parties, 3 statements, 3 attempts to shift the blame. But the NYPD's statement was unambiguous. The Secret Service required it. The president's visit caused it. And when pressed further, NYPD Commissioner Tisch confirmed additional street closures around Madison Square Garden had been requested. The fans outside knew exactly who was responsible. Social media in New York that night was not subtle. He ruins everything. Nobody wants this guy. Can we ban him from the garden? These were not fringe voices. These were ordinary New Yorkers who had been looking forward to gathering with their community, who had built a tradition around these watch parties across the entire playoff run, and who were now being told to find somewhere else to go, or to go home, because the President of the United States wanted to watch basketball with his billionaire friend. When Trump walked into Madison Square Garden for Game 3, New York did not stay quiet. The arena, one of the most storied sports venues in the world, in one of the most politically vocal cities in America, responded the way New York responds. They booed, loudly, consistently, unmistakably. This was not a political rally. This was not a protest. This was tens of thousands of sports fans, in the middle of the NBA Finals, using the only tool available to them in that moment, their voices, to tell the President of the United States what they thought of him showing up and disrupting their experience. Sports commentator Stephen A. Smith, one of the most prominent voices in American sports media, had warned this would happen before the game. He said, and this is a direct paraphrase, "If there was ever a time to stay home, this was it. He said it did not matter which president it was. He said come Monday, the city of New York would experience something he had never seen in 30 years of covering sports. He was right. And then there was the UFC. While Trump was at the Garden, his administration was facing a separate lawsuit from residents living near the White House, challenging a UFC fight being held on White House grounds, where $1.5 million seats were being sold, where Crypto.com was a sponsor, and where a subscription service was required to watch an event held on public property. 2 events. Same week. Same president. The pattern is not subtle. Public spaces, public events, and public access, all reorganized around one man's preferences and one man's friendships. Here is what connects the MSG story to something larger than a basketball game. There is a pattern in this administration of treating public spaces, public institutions, and public events as personal property. The White House lawn becomes a UFC venue with private sponsors, paid seats, and a subscription paywall. The National Mall becomes a backdrop for a MAGA political rally branded as a national celebration. The NBA Finals in New York, a city that did not vote for Trump and has made its political views about him consistently clear, become an occasion for the president to show up with his billionaire friend, disrupt the experience of tens of thousands of ordinary people, and then blame the city for the inconvenience. What makes this different from a president simply attending a sporting event is the specificity of who is made to pay the cost. The fans who could afford the $8,000 to $12,000 tickets inside. They had their experience disrupted too, but they were inside. The fans who were displaced were the ones outside, the ones who had been gathering in the free watch parties. The working-class New Yorkers, the people from the boroughs, the families who built the tradition of showing up together and watching their team from the street. These are the people whose experience was erased so that the President of the United States could sit courtside with James Dolan. And when asked about it, Trump's response was, "It's sad." Not, "I'm sorry for the inconvenience." Not, "The watch party should have been able to continue." Just, "It's sad." And he showed up anyway. Let us add up what Trump's attendance at Game 3 actually cost. The watch parties outside Madison Square Garden, free community events that had been running throughout the Knicks' playoff run, canceled. Canceled not because they were unsafe, not because they had violated any rules. Canceled because the president's security requirements made them incompatible with a presidential visit. Tens of thousands of fans who had planned to attend those parties, displaced, told to find other locations, some of which the NYPD said it was still working on identifying. Fans inside Madison Square Garden, required to arrive 2 to 3 hours early, entire neighborhoods in Midtown Manhattan, affected by street closures, subway overcrowding, and traffic gridlock. Stephen A. Smith said he had never seen anything like it in 30 years of sports coverage. He was not exaggerating. And then there is the separate lawsuit over the UFC event at the White House. Residents living near the White House, including a Vietnam veteran, suing to block an event that uses public property for a privately sponsored, ticket-limited, subscription-walled commercial promotion. Both events happening in the same week, both involving the same pattern. Public resources, public spaces, and public access reorganized to serve private interests and presidential preferences. The NBA Finals crowd booed Trump because they were sports fans who had their experience disrupted. But the disruption was not an accident. It was a choice. And it was made by someone who understood exactly what it would cost, and decided it was worth it.